Hello students, in today's video session let us start second chapter, which is program and network properties. In this first, let us understand the conditions of parallelism. Here we are understanding concept of Bernstein's conditions. Let us elaborate on that. Bernstein, who was a computer engineer, proposed these conditions of parallelism on the basis of which the concepts of programming is developed in parallel processing. Now, according to Bernstein, every statement in a program is a entity. We call it as a process. Every statement or programming statement is an entity. You call that as a, say, process or statement, whatever way, PI or SI. You call it as a programming statement or a process. What that does, it executes some program. That's how a statement or a process will do something. For that, it will take input, isn't it? Second is I, okay, I, or we call it as input, II. These are set of inputs, set of all inputs. You know that you are obviously taking these inputs from memory or registers. From where these inputs comes? These comes from memory or registers, correct? And after processing, these statements gives output. This program entity gives output, isn't it? That is outputs or the set of output. Output, I call it as O. O. Now, this O, because of the ith process, is stored in memory or registers. Generally, the output which are obtained, they are stored in memory or registers, isn't it? Now, that's what we are doing. In general, I can say that you are receiving input, processing that, and giving the output, correct? Giving the output because of the ith process. Now, from where I am getting this input? I am getting it input from memory, and where I am storing this? I am again storing it in memory or registers. This is how the simple a diagram will be there in Bernstein's conditions before we set. Now, according to Bernstein, two processes are said to be in parallel if it satisfies conditions. Okay, what are those conditions? Those conditions are called as Bernstein's conditions. Let us see two processes now. Let us consider two processes. Two processes or two program statements, whatever it is. Two processes. First is P1. Okay, first is P1, where it receives input I1 and produces output O1. Let us consider the second process. This receives input I2 and output is O2. Now, let us see what exactly is Bernstein's conditions. First is the process P1 receives input I1 and produces output O1. Now, similarly, second process is it receives input I2 and produces output O2. Now, following is Bernstein's conditions. Now, the first is condition 1. Condition 1. What it says is condition 1 is the input 1 input 1 intersection with O2 must be null. The meaning here is there must not be any dependency of second output on first input. That means it should not lead here. There must not be any connection between O2 and I1. Condition 2. Condition 2 is there must not be any link between output 1 and input 2. There must not be any link between output 1 and input 2. I mean to say here I2 intersection with O1 must be null. I2 intersected with O1 must be null. The third condition is there must not be any dependency between first output and second output. O1 intersected with O2 must be null. This is what is called as Bernstein's conditions. If these three conditions are satisfied, obviously the process P1 and P2 are called as parallel processes. This implies if these three conditions are satisfied, then P1 is parallel with P2. They can run independently because neither of the outputs depend on each other. This condition is called as Bernstein's conditions. Okay, I hope you understood. These three conditions need to be satisfied so as to run two processes or two programs or part of programs we can run parallelly. This is called as conditions of parallelism. Okay. Further coming, we will take a simple example in the next slide or next board. I shall take a simple example and elaborate you the concept of Bernstein's for parallelism. Okay. Let us move to the next board. Okay. Let us see the example for Bernstein's condition. Here an example is given where example 1, there are 5 statements where the first statement C is equal to D multiplied by E, where D and E are inputs. M is equal to G plus C. That means you can see C comes here. M is equal to G plus C. A is equal to B plus C. The same C comes here and it becomes output A is equal to B plus C. Now C is equal to L plus M. And the last statement or the process 5 or the program statement 5, F is equal to G divided by E. These 5 statements are given. Now if you execute these statements sequentially, what happens, and if you run, if any parallelism is introduced in this programming, how we will run this 5 program statements, let us see that. First is sequential execution. First sequential execution. Now let us see the sequential execution. In sequential execution, we will be having D and E as inputs. D and E as inputs. D and E you are multiplying so that the result is C, correct? The result is C. This result C added with the G. There is one summing is required, added with G, so that the result becomes M, isn't it? The result becomes M here. Result becomes M. At the same time, you can see this C is required to be added with B so that the result becomes A, correct? The result becomes A. That means I want another summing here. I have to tap out C, and I shall bring it here. And add it with B, and the result becomes A, correct? The result becomes A. At the same time, you can see that there is one input L and the M, which was the previous output, need to be added so as to get the C. Now I shall have L added with M. Here is M. So that the answer becomes C. So that the answer becomes C. Now the fifth statement, whatever is there, it is simply G and E are the two inputs, and divided gives me output F. You can see that first I execute the program statement 1, second I execute program statement 2, G plus C, third I executed B plus C, fourth step I executed L plus M so as to get C, fifth statement or fifth step G divided by E. Sequentially I executed all these 5 statements. Okay, this is sequential execution. The same thing if I do parallel execution, what I can do here is, you see, first thing is I shall obtain output C, and I will provide this output C to both statements P2 and P3 so that I can execute to obtain M and A, isn't it? There is a parallelism is possible here, because if I can provide this output C to both P2 and P3, I can parallelly execute to obtain M and A. I shall draw the same 5 statements and show you how I can reduce the steps by parallelism. Anyway, there are 5 steps are required if I execute sequentially. Let us see this second execution by parallel programming method or parallel method. Now let us see that. First is to obtain the output C. C is D cross E. D and E, correct? I multiplied so that I obtained C. Now I shall give this output to our next 2 statements, that is P2, that is G becomes input to this, G becomes input to this, C, this is summing, G plus C, output is M. Anyway, here at the same time this C comes here, I shall execute statement P3 so that B comes here and C anyway is here, B plus C, so that the result becomes A, result becomes A. Now this M goes further so as to added with L, correct? Added with L, I shall bring one input L here, L plus M gives you output C, Now you see, I executed first P1, next G plus C, this is P2, then B plus C statement P3 I executed, then P4 I executed. Now you can see the 5th statement, whatever is there, it is independent of anything, it doesn't depend on any previous data. Hence you can run here that division, whatever is there, simply with G and E, correct? G and E, so as to obtain the output F. Output F. Now there were 5 steps present here. In this you can see there is possibility of having only 3 steps. Only 3 steps. How 3 steps? You see, first step what I do, P1 I will run, which gives you result C. At the same time I can run P5. Okay, P1 parallel with P5 because they are independent. But I cannot execute P2 and P3 parallelly because they depend upon C. Now once you obtain C, you can run P2 and P3, and then P4. Hence you can see that first you can run P1 and P5, then P2, P3, and then P4. But there is one problem. If there is only one summing here, it is not possible for us to have run program P2 statement as well as P3 statement because they want summer here. One adder is required here so as to obtain the results of process P2 and P3, isn't it? Hence there is a resource requirement is present. This is very important for us to understand. Execution of parallel statement is possible if and only if there is existence of resources. Parallel execution needs what? Resources, hardware resources. Summing is required or adder is required here. If they are not there, I cannot run them, isn't it? Hence you should note that additional resources, hardwares are required so as to run this parallelly. Now with this I can see that I am just doing this now. How? First step or parallelism, step 1, P1 parallel with P5. Next P2 parallel with P3, isn't it? P2 parallel with P3, and then you can run anyway P4. Hence you can see that these are some other combination also is possible because P5 is independent. P5 is independent. You can run P4 parallel with P5 also. Possible. Anyway, this is a simple parallel execution of the same 5 processes or steps or 5 statements which were there, which were reduced to 3 steps. The next board I shall explain you dependency graph. We have shown you this execution of these statements with simple graph, but there is a scientific method to do this, that is a dependency graph drawing. I shall do it in the next board now. Okay, let us understand how exactly to draw this with the help of a dependency graph. Let us understand dependency graph in the next board. Okay, let us start what exactly is this dependence graph. You have seen in the last board I have just executed these statements, isn't it? P1, P2, P3, P4, P5 sequentially as well as in the parallel manner. You understood that in parallel manner there were only 3 steps involved regarding these 5 sequential statements. Generally, whatever diagram I have drawn, it is just to give you the idea. It doesn't have any scientific understanding in that. Whereas dependence graph gives you how exactly to draw a scientific method it adopts, how to draw the graph it will tell you. Let us understand about that now. Generally there are 2 things. There are 2 things in dependence graph drawing. First is called as nodes. These are just program statements, that's all. These are program statements, nothing more than that. Second is edges or directed edges, what we call. These just set the relation between statements. Okay, how two statements are connected, that is given by edges. That's all. These two things are required for us to. It is just connecting. Say this is one point, a statement is taken as one point, and this is say another statement. How these are connected, that is given by directed edges. Now there are three types of dependencies so as to exploit the parallelism. First, data dependence. Second is control dependence. Third one is resource dependence. Already we have done these things in our previous example 1, but we have not understood it scientifically. Let us do it in this dependence graph drawing. First is data dependence. There are 5 different types in data dependence. Okay, the first is called as flow dependence. What exactly is flow dependence? Say a statement S2 follows statement S1, and if the output of statement S1 becomes input to statement S2, then we can say that statement S2 is flow depending on statement S1. Try to understand. There are two statements, S1 and S2. This is the flow dependence. Flow dependence means the output of S1 becomes input to S2. Such case we shall say that S2 and S1 are flow depending on each other, or S2 is flow depending on S1. This is the concept of flow dependence. The second is anti-dependence. What is the meaning of anti-dependence? Say two statements S1 and S2 are said to be anti-dependent if a part of output O2 is there in statement S1. A part of output S2 is there in statement S1. Then we shall say that these two statements are anti-dependent, and I shall draw a perpendicular small line like this in between. This is the anti-dependence. The third one is output dependence. Output dependence. What is the meaning of output dependence? Say two statements are there, S1 and S2. Both statements write to the same variable or to the same memory variable. Then we shall say that S1 and S2 are output dependence. I hope you understood. S1 statement also write to the same variable. S2 statement also write to the same variable. Then they are output dependence. You will understand this when I solve a simple example. See, so as to denote output dependence, I shall draw an O in between these two statements. Okay. Fourth is IO dependence. Okay. The fourth is IO dependence. Generally, IO dependence means where the file operations are present in execution of the statements, file reading, file writing, we shall take those statements are IO dependence. Okay, IO dependence. generally S1, S2, and here IO is denoted, that's all. So as to signify the IO dependence on each other. Fifth is regarding unknown dependence. There are a lot of concepts like unknown dependence. Some bottlenecks will be there where we cannot determine why exactly this is happening. Sometimes you have, instead of I, you might have denoted something else in a loop. Many things cannot be understood, why it is happening, why the delay is becoming more or less. Those kind of things we call it as unknown dependence. Okay, there is no proper figure for this, but these are the 5 data dependence concepts which need to be understood. Okay, I shall take the first example itself to solve and draw the data dependence. Okay, let me take the first example now, which I have just shown you. Let me draw the dependence graph for that. Hello, let us continue with drawing dependence graph. Actually, dependence graph gives you idea how exactly different statements are related with each other, and it gives us how to explore the parallelism between these given execution of the program. Okay, now let us draw dependence graph for example 1. Example 1, I have with Bernstein's conditions, I have shown you that how this sequentially executed and how to introduce parallelism in that 5 statements. Those same 5 statements I have taken here. Now let us draw the dependence graph. Drawing dependence graph is simple. Just what you have to do is you have to take each nodes. Say each statement becomes each node, P1 and P2. Okay, then P3 and then P4, then P4 and then P5. I just drawn different nodes. If you think that the diagram doesn't come correctly, then later you can just redraw that. It gives you idea how exactly the connectivity between these all diagrams are present. Okay, now let us see these statements. The first statement, P1 C is equal to D multiplied by E, and then P2 is equal to M G plus C, the second statement. Now pairwise you have to compare. Now let us compare P1 and P2. C, which was output of statement 1, becomes input to statement 2, isn't it? This C comes here as an input. Hence P1 and P2 are related with each other with a flow dependence. The flow dependence means the output of the statement becomes input to the second statement. Hence there is a flow dependence between P1 and P2. Now let us compare P1 and P3. Again, you see this C, which was output of statement 1, becomes input to statement 3. Correct? P1 and P3 are again flow dependent only. P1 and P3 are again flow dependent only. Now let us compare P1 and P4. P1 and P4 are related with each other. Output dependence. Why output dependence? You can see the statement P1 C is equal to D multiplied by E. That means the statement writes into C. Similarly, the statement P4 also writes into C. There is relation between P1 and P4. What relation? The relation is there is output dependence. P1 and P4 are related with each other. Output dependence. Output dependence means I just mark it with O here. Mark it with O. Now let us go ahead. I have completed. There is no relation between P1 and P5 at all. No variables or no data are connected with this. Hence P5 is independent. Now let us come to statement 2, P2. P2 and P3, is there any relation? P2 and P3? No, no such relations. G plus C is there, B plus C is there, no relations. Now P2 and P4, P2 and P4 you can see there is a relation. What relation? M, which was the output of the statement 2, becomes input to statement 4, M, isn't it? Hence P2 and P4 are related with each other with a flow dependence, hence just I marked it with an edge there, P2 and P4. Can you explore another relation between P2 and P4? P2 and P4 you can see the output of the statement P4 becomes input to the previous statement P2, correct? C, which was output of P4 becomes input to statement 2. Hence what happens here? There is relationship between P2 and P4 as an anti-dependence. P2 and P4 are marked and a marking like this, perpendicular marking cross, which denotes anti-dependent. Hence I hope, is there any relation between P2 and P5? No. What about P3 and P4? P3 and P4. Let us explore between P3 and P4. P3 and P4 you can see P3 and P4 there is relation. What relation? C, which was output of fourth statement, becomes input. P3, P4 there is a relation. P3 and P4 there is a relation. What relation? Anti-dependent. P3, P4. See here, C, which was output, becomes the input to the previous statement. P3, P4 are anti-dependent. I have drawn all the dependence graph. Again, this dependence graph is explored with the resources. What resources are there here? One adder is required. All those later I will draw. But anyway, this is how the dependence graph is drawn, where the interconnectivity between different statements with respect to data is drawn. I hope you understood this example. Let us explore with the second example. The second example, let me draw so that the concept becomes very clear to you. Now example 2 I have just placed on the board. Example 2 states that load R1 comma A. What is the meaning of R1 comma A? Whatever variable A is there, that is loaded into resistor R1. The second statement, what it says is add R2 comma R1. The second statement says is R1 and R2 are added and stored back into R2. The third statement, move R1 comma R3. Whatever results are there in R3, store it in resistor R1. Correct? Now S4, store B comma R1. Whatever results are there in resistor R1, store back as a variable B. Let us draw now this dependence graph for this example 2. This is example 1. Example 1 I have drawn here. Let me draw example 2 now. Example 2. What do you do? Simply S1, then S2, then S3 and S4. And then S4. S3 and then S4. 4 statements I have just drawn as nodes. S1, S2, S3, S4. Now what you do? Take the first statement, compare with the rest and draw the dependence graph. First statement, load, and second statement now comparing. Load R1 comma A and second statement is load R2 comma R1. This R1 which becomes input to statement 2. This was output becomes input. Hence S1 and S2 are flow dependent. Now S1 and S3 let us compare. S1 and S3. there is a relation. What relation? R1 comma A. Answer is written into R1. Similarly, S3 answer is written back into R1. Hence, S1 and S3 are related with each other with the output dependence. S1 and S3. Now, S1 and S4. S1 and S4 relationship is load R1 comma A and store B comma R1. R1 is an input to fourth statement, isn't it? R1 is an input to fourth statement. Hence, S1 and S4 are related with each other with a flow dependence. Now let us take the second statement, S2 add R2 comma R1 and S3 move R1 comma R3. You can see this becomes input but this becomes output here. Hence they are flow anti-dependent. S2 and S3 are anti-dependent. Now S2 and S4 again. S2 and S4, is there any relationship between S2 and S4? R2 comma R1, B comma R1. No way. Now let us take S3 and S4. Store B comma R1, whereas move R1 comma R3. Now S3, S4 are related with a flow, isn't it? This becomes the input, output, and that is an input to statement 4. Hence S3, S4 are flow dependent. There is one simple missing link is there. That missing link is this: add R2 comma R1 and store back to R2. Correct? Store back to R2. Hence this I am just adding at the end here so that you should not miss statements like this. Add R2 comma R1 and it is storing back into R2, isn't it? It is storing back into R2. Hence that is a statement which I am adding at the end. This is how the dependence graph, for example, true is drawn. It's very simple. You have to understand how the input output are related, how the statements are related. I hope you understood. These two example gives you complete idea. First is flow dependent. That means the input of first statement becomes the output of the first statement becomes input for the second statement. Then 1 and 2 are related with flow dependence. Anti-dependent means the output of the second statement becomes input for the first statement, then it becomes anti-dependent. The third is output dependence. Output dependence means if two statements are writing into the same variable or same output, then they are called as output dependence. These three becomes very important things to draw dependence graph. The rest whatever are there, the unknown things that we will explore later as an example comes into picture. Okay, I am just giving an assignment on this example 2.4 from your textbook. You try that. This is a very important concept. Dependence graph drawing is very important concepts. Questions are asked in the question papers. If any doubts are there, you can clarify it on your group. Ask me some questions on this if there are doubts. Okay, thank you.